It was Christmas Eve, and snow had been falling softly all day on Sleepy Forest, where snowflakes settled on a cozy cabin deep in the heart of the trees. Inside that cabin lived a family of koalas, and the youngest was called Oliver. On that snowy evening, the family made the final preparations for Christmas. Arthur and Margaret were in the kitchen baking tempting treats, and the delicious scents of nutmeg, cinnamon, and gingerbread drifted through the warm room. Henry had spent the day chopping wood, so the hearth would keep everyone snug during the cold months. And once he had enough logs, he stacked them neatly beside the cabin and carried some into a basket by the fireplace. A few pieces already glowed in the grate, and the soothing crackle of the fire added to the comfortable atmosphere as amber and orange flames danced over spruce-scented wood. Emma sat in an armchair by the window with a colorful collection of wool at her side, finishing the last of the handmade gifts. Whenever anyone came near, she asked them to close their eyes so the surprises would not be spoiled the next morning. Oliver had been in charge of decorations and had spent days making the house look as magical as possible. He stood in the middle of the room inspecting his work. Glittering garlands of gold and silver tinsel looped through the green branches of the tree. Sparkling baubles dangled from the tips of the boughs, and homemade crackers nestled among the pine-scented greenery. A large silver star made of card stood proudly on top of the tree. Oliver had made that star when he was very small, and although it was a little lopsided and most of the glitter had fallen off, the family insisted it take pride of place each year. With help from Henry, he had hung red and green paper chains around the house, and paper snowflakes decorated every window, making the cabin as enchanting inside as the forest was outside. As the day turned to dusk, the snow continued to fall and covered Sleepy Forest with a glittering white blanket. Oliver pressed his nose to the window and watched snowflakes drift and swirl. One large flake landed on the glass, and he marveled at its intricate pattern. Arthur came to his side and put an arm around him. Oliver asked if Santa would still find his way with the snow falling so thick, and Arthur smiled and said Santa always finds his way no matter how deep the snow. Then Arthur tilted his head and listened. Oliver copied him and heard nothing at first. Then a faint sound of distant bells jingling merrily came from outside. Arthur suggested that Oliver, who had finished the decorations, go on a snowy adventure to discover where that sound came from, and to wrap up warm because it was chilly. Excited by the idea of solving a little mystery, Oliver put on his coat, scarf, hat, and mittens and set off. He said goodbye to his family, who waved with loving smiles, and walked down the cabin steps toward the path into the forest. He left only his footprints in the fresh snow, which made him feel special on such a magical night. Snowflakes fell like soft kisses on his head, and the snow underfoot sparkled as though tiny stars had been sprinkled among the flakes. Soon he heard tinkling bells coming from the left side of the wood, so he left the path and followed the joyful sound. The bells led him toward a rabbit burrow, where they stopped as he drew near. He wondered whether the rabbit family had heard them, and as he considered asking, the mother rabbit popped her head out and greeted him warmly. She said she had not heard the bells, but invited Oliver inside because Santa had just left special gifts for them, and she wanted to share. In the cozy burrow, a fire crackled, and the younger rabbits snuggled together on a sofa beneath a navy-colored blanket edged with tiny silver sequins that shimmered in the firelight. The mother rabbit told them to make room for Oliver and went to the kitchen to make hot drinks from a large tin of hot chocolate Santa had left. The smallest rabbit whispered that the blanket was a gift from Santa, and somehow was always big enough for everyone, and they thought it might even be magic. Oliver tucked under the blanket and found it soft as a cloud and as warm as Margaret S. hugs. The mother rabbit brought over a mug topped with whipped cream and pink snowflake-shaped marshmallows, and Oliver wrapped his paws around it and sipped. The warm chocolate made him feel cozy and happy. He could have stayed all night beneath the blanket, but he heard the bells again through the crackle of the fire and the rabbits' quiet chatter, and their merry sound called him onward. After thanking the rabbits and wishing them a Merry Christmas, Oliver wrapped up and left the burrow. Outside, the snow had ceased, and the air felt crisp. A robin alighted on a nearby branch and began a soft song, and the tinkling bells grew clearer as Oliver walked over the fresh snow. The chimes led him to a clearing where a group of dormice gathered, watching the trees as if waiting for something. One dormouse explained they were awaiting a gift Santa had left that would help their families find their way home through the snow, and they had been told to watch the trees. For a few moments, there was only a peaceful hush. Then magic began. Strings of fairy lights floated through the air and settled among branches and around trunks, bathing the trees in soft pink, green, blue, and purple glows. Pastel-hued snowflakes drifted down and lit up on the ground like bright stars, revealing the pathways to the dormice homes. In time, the first visitors arrived, walking through the lit trees and being greeted with hugs and kisses by waiting relatives. When everyone had come together, the dormice joined hands and began to sing Christmas carols. Oliver joined in as best he could, and the joy on the singers' faces made his heart feel light and full of happiness. After the singing, the dormice invited Oliver to share warm mince pies and a generous slice of chocolate Yule log, but he politely declined. When he heard the bells chiming again and set out once more, the bells grew louder as he continued, guiding him past many friendly animals. A nightingale showed Oliver a new songbook Santa had left and sang a tune from it, warming him with her beautiful voice. An elderly badger showed him rose-scented candles Santa had given so she could enjoy the fragrance of summer roses all year. A group of mice showed Oliver the coal and carrots Santa had provided to decorate the snowman their youngsters had built during the day, and the coal eyes and carrot noses glimmered on the snowmen, making them enchanting. Each creature invited him into their home for food and drink, but he explained he was on a quest to find the source of the jingling bells and did not want to stop. Under a bright full moon, the bells led him onward, and their festive melody filled the winter air. Presently, a new sound joined the chimes, the warm, cheerful voice of a man laughing softly. Rounding a snowy bend, Oliver found Santa sitting on a log dusted with snow, speaking to his reindeer and praising how well they were doing. Santa looked up, smiled broadly, and greeted Oliver by name, asking what he was doing out on such a fine Christmas Eve. Oliver Oliver said he had been following the sound of jingling bells. Santa chuckled, and Oliver noticed his round, jolly face and the way his belly wobbled when he laughed. Santa explained that Mrs. Santa had made new bells for the reins, and perhaps added a few too many jingles, which his reindeer could not resist shaking all night. The reindeer nodded, and their reins jingled happily. Santa offered Oliver a ride home in the sleigh, and Oliver gratefully accepted. Santa helped him into the sleigh, tucked a warm blanket around him as soft and cozy as the rabbit S, and called the reindeer by name: Dasher, Dancer, Vixen, Prancer, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen, with Rudolph at the front. Away the sleigh went, gliding up into the night sky above white fields. They flew over treetops glittering with snow and across frozen ponds and lakes, where Oliver saw the sleigh's reflection shimmer on the icy surfaces. He waved to animals still awake, calling a Merry Christmas to each, and the bells on Rudolph mingled with hooting owls and faraway carols. The blanket snugged him warmly. His eyes grew heavy, and a pleasant drowsiness eased through him as he leaned against Santa's shoulder. Soon, the familiar sight of his cozy cabin came into view. His family sat on the swinging benches of the veranda with knitted covers across their knees, and looked up at the night as if not surprised to see him arriving in Santa's sleigh. The sleigh came to rest outside the cabin. Santa lifted Oliver and handed him into Arthur's waiting arms, then pressed a small gift into his hands and wished him a good night and a Merry Christmas. Inside the cabin, Arthur carried Oliver to his bedroom, tucked him into bed, and asked what Santa had given him. The present was a snow globe containing a miniature snow-covered forest with animals standing among the trees. Oliver recognized many of the animals because he had met them that evening. And inside the globe, a tiny sleigh flew through the sky, pulled by a line of reindeer with a miniature Santa inside. And a tiny koala snuggled beneath a blue blanket beside him. Oliver gently shook the globe, and the sound of jingling bells filled his room as snow began to swirl inside it. He placed the snow globe on his bedside table, settled under the covers, and made himself comfortable. One by one, his family came in, kissed him, and wished him a good night. As Oliver drifted into a deep sleep, he could still hear the sound of bells faintly from far away, and he mumbled sleepily, "Merry Christmas, Santa."